Well, this is beyond question the finest collection of silver we've ever had on the Antiques Roadshow in 22 years. There's a good reason for that. It doesn't belong to any one person, it belongs to the college. It's the college silver, and it represents something like 500 years of Winchester's history.
Yep.
Really, it's the most extraordinary collection.
It is. I have to say, I've rarely had the privilege of handling such wonderful and incredibly rare objects. But the oldest item in the collection is this cup here called the election cup, and that's the name given to the entrance exam for the college. It's dated to the early part of the 16th century, and very few pieces of that date ever come on the market, so it's enormously rare. Has traces of Gothic on it, so we know that it dates from that sort of period.
And sort of piece you wouldn't even find in a museum.
Very unlikely. It's so rare and so important that it's such a pleasure to see such a rarity.
And the ewer and dish?
That's perhaps
beautiful.
the most outstanding object on the table. This is mid-16th century, Elizabethan. It has Holbein-esque masks are engraved around the side.
Yes.
It is unbelievably rare, and especially in the center of the basin, here it has the arms of Winchester College. Now, these things were essential pieces of plate on the Elizabethan table, because in those days they didn't have knives and forks like we have today. They would have had a big knife for hacking off the meat, then would have relished chomping away with their hands,
And this was to wash the hands.
that was to wash the hands afterwards.
And this one here?
The salt cellar was one of the most important pieces, again, like the ewer and the basin. Salt was enormously important in the 16th century. This is a mid-16th century salt, relatively small by some standards, because they got bigger and bigger throughout the century, and they became very much show pieces of the table.
And finally?
And finally this, a really oversized porringer, a porringer ostensibly for drinking out of. The porringer is much later, it's 1680s, typical acanthus leaf decoration from that period.
Yes.
But the great thing about this is it's 2 or 3 times the size of any other porringer one normally sees. An outstanding bit of silver gilt again, and like all of this stuff, wonderful condition.
And it all sums up, really, the point that I sometimes make, that every Antiques Roadshow is unique, because we will simply never see this again.
I mean, it's always my dream that something like this might turn up one day, and you never know.